English. All right, so this is the first one of the bunch, and it's going to set the proportion goal for the rest of them. So it's a little bit over 4 inches tall and not quite 3.5 wide. So everyone after that's going to try to be the same proportions, but a different shape. That's the goal. Why doesn't it fall apart? I don't know. It's clay. That's how it works. Probably has a combination to do of gravity and what it's made of. I mean, what holds all of us together, you know? Yeah, I don't have the answer to that. Oh, yeah, that happens. That's part of the clay. It's everywhere. And the more you do it, the more it spreads, not just on you, but like everywhere through your life. To the point that I was once in just the garage, and then the clay started getting into the kitchen, which is the next thing, and it's just slowly tracking its way. It's everywhere. You just get used to it. This is roughly the same size, so now I can try to make a different shape that gives a different implied volume. I'm gonna go with Big Belly. mess it up. Okay, which of these two looks like it could carry the most stuff? I'm kind of feeling this one. My left or your left? This one? Yeah, I'm feeling this one too, which is weird because like I thought that the belly would make it seem like it had more. So maybe it's the tapering in of the mouth here that makes it feel like it doesn't. That's what I'm thinking. So I think I'll try it again, but maybe next time I will not taper in the mouth at all and just have like a pot that gets wider towards the top, like a V. Yeah, I agree. That's what I'm gonna try. It's terrible. There's a lot of interesting sounds in clay. And smells. I think there are a lot of ASMR clay channels. I don't know about violent ones. It's one of those things. Do you want to Google it or not? Do you want to know if it's out there or not? I can feel that this piece is not like well conditioned. I've got like spots that are more dense than others. I got my wheel in September of last year. And before that, I think it was in like 2021 or 2022, I did take like a 6-week wheel class. So it was like 6 classes where they, taught you how to use the wheel. We just kind of like goofed around and made cylinders and stuff. And then I just thought about it for like 2 years. And then I was like, I really want to keep doing this. And so I bought a wheel. But I had moved, so I've just been clay in my garage since. I haven't really fired any pieces. So mainly just been learning the form. So not very long at all. Yeah, not only expensive, but it's not like just an oven. Like, you got to know what you're doing in order to use it. And there's all these like nuances and things, like even as far as much as like how you stack a kiln. And there's also it's just a lot to learn. That's part of the reason why I haven't really tried to fire any pieces, because like every step of this, hobby or craft or whatever you want to call it has, there's just a lot to it. Like form of the clay, there's like a gazillion different things that you can do with it. And we're not even talking about clay bodies yet, Oh yeah, there's sorts of like really cool stuff. So one of the things that led me to this was my mom does polymer clay, which is like a clay that you do in the oven. And for the longest time, I don't even know how long I've been doing this, like for her birthday and Mother's Day and stuff, she always wanted flower pots decorated. And so I would take polymer clay and make things and then glue it to like a clay pot that I'd bought. Polymer clay is cool. Yeah. Also air dry clay, you can do a lot of neat stuff. It's gonna snap off. I hate when that happens. Like, I gotta look up and figure out that's me doing something wrong, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong yet. I think it's either the conditioning of the clay or how I'm pulling up, but this occasionally happens. It's one of the things that I have to troubleshoot. All right. So, I narrow it at the base. You know what? Yeah, I found, so when I first started this, I hadn't touched clay for like, I told you, like 2 years since I'd taken the class. And so I went and bought, I had no idea what clay body I was working with in those classes. And then I went and bought clay, and there's a gazillion different types of clay to pick out from. And then I got the bags of clay, and they were so hard to work with. And I found that after I did one loop of reclaim, they were much easier to work with. And then I read why that happens is because in the clay facilities, they don't have the ability to take through as much steps as I do, which I pretty much almost liquefy it and then run it through a sieve, which helps like distribute everything much better compared to in like the clay factories or wherever it's processed. You know, they don't have the ability. It does make sense to put it through that much processing. So yes, it took a little bit to figure out, but once I got done, at first I was like, oh, this is a huge pain, why am I doing this? But now I've gotten down pretty good. I think I've probably done 4 or 5 batches and I kind of got my system down. So I'll probably keep doing it. Even if I'm moving in like a week or two to a place where they will have a studio that I can join. And so when you join studios, often they'll like do the reclaim for you and you just get a discount on clay. But I'll probably still reclaim my clay. So should I do like another rounded and just keep it from the rounded, keep it more open at the top, or should I do like a V shape? So it's like the walls are straight. V shape, okay. All right, that foot was entirely unintentional, but I kind of like it. This. Should I cut that at the bottom off? I don't know if you can see it or not around the chat. Part of me thinks I should, because then the base would match the base of that one, and kind of the idea is building on the, making like one change. But then also at the end, I'm gonna cut them all in half, and so if I cut it in half, then I can see what a decorated bottom like that really looks like. But I have a feeling it's just gonna make the bottom heavy. So I'm gonna cut it off. I don't know, man. I still feel like the first one looks like it holds the most. Yeah. Inky and the Alien Aquarium. We've got a couple physical left. We did about 200 physical copies, and then we've also got it on itch. It's a puzzle game, like a block pushing puzzle game with like a little bit of an adventure twist. Yeah, I did the pixel art, and my husband did the all the programming and the music. But if you're into that, check out we have a YouTube channel for that business, and once we get moved, I'm going to start streaming my pixel art and the stuff that I work on that, because we're porting a game for another developer right now to the GBA. So it's not our game, we're doing it for them, and because we're formatting for the GBA, we're changing the resolution, which then means that I'm making some adjustments to the art. No, it's just the developer has done a lot of games, and Anthology, I believe is the developer's name, and the game is Aunt Flora's Mansion. It's also a block pushing puzzle game. It's pretty clever, and I believe she did it for I can't remember. I want to say she's Game Maker, I believe. So that's got some restrictions on resolution, I think. Some other things. We also have another game. We did it for a game jam. We did it for GB11, which is a Game Boy jam, or Game Boy themed game jam. There you go. That was a lot of fun. It was pretty challenging though. I think it was a 4-color palette we were restricted to. It was 10 days. Oops. And that one was Over the Moon. And we ranked, I'm really proud of it, but we ranked 5th out of, I think, 300 or 400 games that were submitted and 3,000 people, I think, entered. I don't know if it was 3,000 teams or 3,000 individuals. I think it's 3,000 individuals, and a total of like 300 or 400 games were submitted, and out of that we were ranked 5. Actually, I think we were originally ranked 7, but 2 people I think got disqualified. Oh, dude, you should, you should, join our Discord. We've got one. I'll, like, post it here somehow. I don't know. I think if you look on our business page, it's there too. But we have a Discord just for people to share, retro homebrews. And then we also just post there anytime we come across a game or anything like that. We post what we find because, you know, it's a pretty niche group. Dollar says that at some point knock this over. So what's your favorite game? If you have one, I know that's really difficult. I don't have one. I've got a lot that I like. I mean, I could pick one. If I had to pick one, A Link to the Past. Probably. I mean, it's just, you know, awesome. It's just a great game. They did everything right. But I'm also partial because my first system was a Super Nintendo. If I had a Nintendo or another system to start with, I'd probably feel different. I forgot to measure it. Short. Duke Nukem. Huh, I meant X. I used to play the hell out of some Duke Nukem on the computer when I was a kid. Captain Keen, did you ever play that one? Got me all distracted. Now I'm like, wobbly bottom. What was your first system? What does Crystal Dynamics make? Yeah, Captain Keen's just like a platformer. It's cute. Got some cute baddies that are funny. Move that. Nice. What got you into collecting? Oh, yeah, yeah. Do you collect all systems or just specific ones? That's just weird. Ooh. This one needs to come off. Oh, yeah. I'm losing this one for sure. It says, this is what you get for not paying attention to me. I'm here. Stop talking about video games. Pay attention to me. Clay knows it when you're thinking about something else, man. Once your mind starts wandering, the clay does what it wants. Oh, shame. I don't know, man. I don't think this one looks like it carries as much as this one still. I feel like that one's still winning. I don't know about that one though. We'll see. Yeah, these are about £1. The most I've made with anything I think was like 4 pounds. I did like a moon jar or whatever. What I'm gonna do, like, my plan is to work through that book, and that book works you through, like, this is the first chapter, you do this, next one's working on rims and feet, and then after that, you put those two things together, and after that, you make a picture, and then it teaches you, by the end of it, you're making a teapot and kind of working through everything. I would love to make, what I want to make one day is big pots, like big planter pots. That's the thing that interests me most is making, you know, pots that you put plants in. So this is just kind of teaching me skills, you know? I got 2 more left. Yeah, I would say the best thing I made was, and I have a video of it, It was like a big bellied neck jar. That's probably the thing I'm most proud of. Probably the most, I mean, I've made cylinders like this tall, but once you start distorting them and stuff, they get shorter because you make them wider. But I think 9.5 inches was the tallest I've gotten anything. So, after the move, I want to start trying to make some bigger pots. I'm not going to keep any of this stuff. I'm probably going to try to get all my clay in, like, I just don't want to move transferring a bunch of bisqueware, greenware, which is a bunch of stuff that's just super fragile. In fact, I have about 10 pots now. I'm thinking about just breaking them and restarting over just because I made them so long ago, they're not very good. And I still don't really have, I don't even know if I have a way to fire them because I'll have to find somebody to let me use their kiln. That was a good one. Thanks for hanging out, by the way. This is like the first time I've opened my stream up to people. And it's been a pleasant experience, so thank you. So this one, I think, does look like it carries more than this one. But I think it's because it's slightly larger. I think that piece of clay may have been just slightly larger. I don't know, we'll see. All right, so I'm trying to think of another thing to do to play with the volume of this pot. I've done like bulbing out. I haven't really done any twists. That one's more like rings, so I can do a spiral and see how that does. I've never really done one before. Taper it in the bottom. Well, I'll be honest, I am not impressed with that spiral. I am. Hey, how are you? Yeah, I'm not impressed with the spiral at all. So what I'm doing is, I got this pottery book, a potter's workbook. Like everybody on Reddit raved about it. Yeah, man, that's awesome. I'm glad you came by. That's cool. I didn't really expect anybody to come by, but I had a couple people that I didn't recognize. You're the first person I've recognized so far. But everyone's been really nice and pleasant. So I'll probably do this again. So yeah, what I'm doing is I have this book, a potter's workbook, and I'm going to work through it. Because the idea is, you know, it's for, well, there's a lot, but it's essentially, you know, a practice guide. And by the end of it, if I work through everything, I should be able to make a teapot. So this is the, each chapter has an exercise, something to practice. And so my plan is to, like, you know, live stream all those and record those, like I record everything. But this chapter, which is like the first chapter with a exercise, is to make a bunch of cylinders, and they should all be about the same proportion. So a little bit taller than they are wide. And the goal is to play with implied volume. So try to figure out, well, not try to figure out, but just play with the different features of the pot and see how that impacts the implied volume. So not measurable volume, but you know, how much it feels or looks like it could hold. And this was the last one. I threw 6. So now what I'm going to do is kind of take a look at all of them and examine them. And then see what I learn. This is definitely the ugliest one. That spiral takes some practice. Do, 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 do. You should, yeah. It's really awesome. Thanks. Here, I'll grab it and get my hands a little bit clean. I learn better from books. Like, there's tons of people I've been following, looking on YouTube, but for videos, it takes me so many watches to retain everything compared to a book, which I can like annotate and make notes, go back, reread, consider things. And it's pretty like basic. Like, each chapter is only a couple pages, but they do, you know, illustrations to help like get to the point. And this chapter is the space within. And like I said, the idea was to throw a bunch of cylinders, all relatively the same proportions, and then see how the different elements go together to create that implied volume. And it's so great because, like, I'm a self-learner. It's making me think about things in ways that I never even considered, you know, which one of the things it says, okay, when you're looking at these pots, break them down by the components. So break them down by, you know, the rim, the base, which to me is pretty, you know, self-explanatory, the shape. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for stopping by too. I appreciate coming by and having someone to talk pottery with, because I don't have people in my life to talk pottery with. My husband listens a lot, but he doesn't do it. So it's cool to have people to talk about. But yeah, so what the components that the book talks about is the rim, the base, the shape, so like the silhouette, and then also it mentioned the surface. So like that kind of blew my mind. Like, I never even thought about looking at pots first off for implied volume. You've been looking at my videos, so you see that like I measure everything, literally measure everything. And so I never even thought about what does this look like? Because one of the things I've been struggling with is I watch Great British Throwdown, and Keith picks up pots and he like cries because they're the perfect weight. And I'm like, I don't understand that. Like, how do you determine, you know, what is right for the right feel? And I think this, now I don't really know, but I'm thinking is that one of the things that may come into the factor is implied volume. Like, you see this pot and you think, oh, this can hold, you know, it looks like it can hold this much weight, you know, and then either it does or it doesn't, you know? So of these pots, I should probably move some of them so they're all side by side, kind of. I would say of these up front, this one, I don't really think, this one kind of looks like it does, but in my brain, I feel like really this one still probably looks like it holds the most. Maybe this one, maybe. If I move this one next to it. Nah, I still feel like this one holds the most. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the thing. That's another reason why I do it too, is that like everything out there, well, not everything. Yeah, like YouTube's weird. It's really great in a lot of ways because you can learn a lot of things, but there's also a performance part of it, you know, because a lot of people on YouTube are, you know, trying to make a living out of it. And so once you're doing that, you start changing what you're doing to what gets the most views, and that's going to change, you know, what you're doing. So I'm trying not to do that. So by like doing unedited videos and putting everything straight out there, I want to give people an idea of like what it actually is like to do this. Because if you just look at the videos, you're like, oh, it's magic. It just goes straight up. And it's not like that at all. You know, not at least not for me. You know, a lot of it's a process and you're trying to figure it all out. And then the other thing too is like how long it takes, like for example, like the incense burner I'm working on, like how long does it take to figure something out? Like I don't have any intention on like, it's very important to me to make this be always a hobby and a therapy and art therapy for me. But I do like the idea of, you know, by putting everything out there, those who are selling their stuff, you know, at some point they can be like, yeah, like this is how much work it actually takes to put into this, you know, like this is how much, it's not just, oh, it took me 5 minutes to make this particular pot. Yeah, it also took 5 years to get to that point. And then not to mention all the, you know, work that goes into perfecting that, you know, one piece. Production potters are insane. But anyways, yeah, because like when I started this, for example, like I did a lot of research before I decided like, oh, I'm gonna just recycle my clay because I didn't have access to a kiln. And then I was like, oh my God, recycling clay sucks. This is hard. This is a lot of work. It's not as easy as it looks like, you know, in videos, which it's gotten easier, but like I still think it's important to like show the entire process, you know? So anyways, that was my ramble. I think what I'm gonna do is actually cut these in half and kind of examine them. I'm gonna start with my least favorites because these two in the back, my little, because these are the ones I hate the most. This one I was trying to do a spiral, and then this one I was doing like, I've seen other people, like I've seen a lot of people do this on the shorts, like make pots that look like this, and I've always wondered what the insides look like. Yeah, necessary, and I also think it makes like for better clay. Like I like my recycled clay better than stuff fresh out of the bag, which I haven't had anything fresh out of the bag in a while because I've been using the same 75 pounds since September. But yeah, for sure. And plus it's a good way to like learn the different stages of the clay, so you kind of get a better idea of like, oh, this is how conditioning works. How did you get into pottery? You wanted to build a wheel? Did you build one? Okay, so why did you want to build a wheel? All right, I'm not gonna start with that one because that one's too wet. Maybe I'll start with the first one then. I'll start at the front and then work my way. I get it. I like to make things, like I'm into it just for the, I don't know. If I can make something myself, I'd rather do it because then it has more meaning to me. I don't know. I guess it runs in the family. My granddad, like, he was always like, why buy something when you can just make it? So my plan is once we get settled and I'm able to join that studio, I want to try to make all of our dishes, like all of our plates and dishes and things like that. I thought that would be a fun thing to do, and I should be able to pick that up out of this book. I think I worked through like all the basic things. I knew I was gonna get clay on it. All right. Yeah, they're stupid expensive. Dude, that's pretty good. I'm proud of that. So one of the things I read in that book was that the inside shape does not necessarily have to reflect the outside shape, which I thought it did. So this one's pretty straightforward. Then I got a little extra clay down there at the bottom, but not too bad. I would probably just trim that off. If I was to keep that, I'd probably just trim that off and make that the foot. But I'm pretty proud of that. My biggest thing, what I struggle with really, is I tend to try to make the walls too thin. And that's just over, it's like about 1/3 of an inch. Maybe just under 1/3, about 1/3 of the inch. Kind of all the way through. I'm really proud of that. That's really good. At the biggest point, which is the angle of the corner, that's 1/2 inch. So that's where I would trim. Do you like trimming? How did I stop doing thin walls? Everything started collapsing and I kept on like working stuff to the death. I would say I was probably in that stage around like February, and someone commented and told me, don't do more than 3 pulls. You know, so 3 lifts of the walls and that's it to get height. Don't go past that. And that was really good advice. So I still go over that. That's like, if you go see my videos, like I go back and look at my throws and then I add chapters in because I'm counting how many lifts I do at what point, because I just kept having things fall apart. I'd make a shape and it would fall apart and it just hit me. Yeah, that's walls. But it still, I mean, it still happens a lot. But I'm learning to stop. Because I think part of the issue is that I just like touching the clay. It's not always like, oh, I need to do this, then this, then this. And I get lost in it. And I'm like, let me just keep doing this. And let me just tweak this. And let me do that. And the next thing I know, I got a flop down pot. I'm really proud of this, man. Like the smartest thing I have to say I've done is freaking record myself, because I wouldn't know how much progress I've made. Like, I'm so thrilled at looking at this right now. I'm like, I'm super excited. Cause like, that's the thing that you can't do. Like, even if I had fired my pots, you know, you don't cut them in half after you fire them. So even if I'd been firing my pots, then I can pick up my other ones. I can't really, you know, this is only the stuff that you figure out by like cutting them in half. So yeah, this is a 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. This one's just little spots that are over, right there, but that's pretty straight. And this one was one that just kind of slightly bowed out. So there's that one. This one did better too. Like I didn't leave as much clay on the bottom there in that corner. I feel like this one's got a heavy bottom. So this one, yeah, right there at the base got thicker. So that's something I'm working on, is whenever I collar in, and I'm learning, like that's one of the things I've learned that happens when you collar in is that your wall gets thicker, but I haven't really learned how to like, how do you collar in, but then don't, I don't know, still keep the evenness of your walls? Or is this okay? Like, is this acceptable? Is this how it's supposed to be? So the bottom is heavier so it doesn't tip over. Like, I don't know. I'm still learning. But that's like one of the things that's so cool about this. There's like, I don't know, there's like a level of engineering in it. So yeah, this is like a 1/4 of an inch up top, and then down here it gets more like to a 1/3 of an inch, and the base is like a 1/3 of an inch. So this is like one of my thicker bases, and I bet it's because I collared in. Because it was originally, you know, everything started off pretty much the same cylinder, which was like my first cylinder, and then I altered shapes after that, so. When I'm done with this, I gotta read you, I don't know, there's a thing in that book that talks about what got people into pottery. And I really enjoyed it. So I'm excited. I have potters to share it with. Oh my gosh, cut. Ooh. So I got something in there too. I'm dying to know what that is. I'll figure that out in a second. I'll look at this one for now. So this one, yeah, I definitely got thinner there in the corner. I'm surprised it didn't collapse. Maybe it didn't collapse because the thinner part was up top and not below. Like in my head, I have it, oh, all walls have to be even. And I just recently learned from the book that's not true. Like you can have variations in wall thickness. So this base is just over 1/4. It's like 3/8. That's like 3/8. And then it gets down to 1/4. That's like an 1/8. Yeah, it's like an 1/8 of an inch up there. So that's kind of thin at the top. Which I guess it wouldn't be bad. I mean, if it's supporting itself, it's supporting itself. And then I could have gone through and probably just trimmed that part off if I was making this a pot and keeping it. And then of course trimming the base. And then that would have been all the same. All right, so I gotta know what this is. Is this like part of a chamois? Is this What the hell is that? I don't know, man. You know what it may be? It may be a piece of Mod Podge. I still pull that out of the clay. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's my guess. I mean, I think so. Still learning it. And I have a feeling like I'm a self-learner, and like typically that's how I learn. I don't know. I get really into something, and then I learn everything about it, and then I move on to something else. So this is like the fourth thing I've done that with. That's part of the reason why I'm recording it. But one thing I noticed is that like when you learn stuff, like often there's like similarities you see between learners, like different stages that they're in. And I bet throwing too thin is like part of the learning process. Like you probably start one thing, and then the next step after you start getting the hang of it is like throwing too thin, because you're trying to throw as thin as possible because you want to get the most height and this and that. I mean, that's how it is for me anyway. Like I said, that advice that person gave, which was do 3 pulls and then do shaping, and then try to keep the shaping just the general idea of the shape, and then fine tune it during trimming. But then you see people like Florian Gadsby, that's his name, the really popular guy, and he like throws perfect and needs like very minimal trimming. So it's like, I don't know, it goes back into the, I don't know, maybe different processes. Interesting. So this is which one? This is the one that I did the spiral. That's really interesting. I expected these walls to be really jacked up, but they're not. And I wonder if it's because Florian Gadsby, there you go. He's like, yeah. So maybe it just like depends on how thin you can throw, depends on, you know, a lot of things. So maybe like right now we're throwing too thin, but later on down the road, we'll be able to throw that thinness because we'll have a better idea of how to work the clay, or have the clay in the right condition in order to achieve that height with that, you know, thinness. I don't know. I'm really surprised at how even these walls are. I thought this is the one that I did a spiral to. So I made these loops by spiraling, but I would have expected with the walls being wavy like that, the thicknesses to be different. And it's pretty, it's like quarter of an inch, mainly quarter of an inch. Down here, again, it gets a little bit bigger, but even the base is quarter of an inch. So that's pretty cool. I mean, the pot was ugly, I hated it, but that's just interesting. It's an interesting thing to learn. So like how I did that was I did like a knuckle lift, and I moved very quickly. So I was moving more quickly than the speed of the wheel. So there was like a gap between the lines, I guess is the best way to put it. And then this one, I used just over a pound. So it was like 1.1 to 1.2, depending on the ball. It was smaller than I'm usually throwing with, which I struggle with. Like I mainly I've been doing like a kilo, so 2.2, which I know it's silly that I jump measurements, but going down to a 1 pound after that was a little bit of a struggle. So this one I did, what I tried to do was I went through and I pushed the wall out or in and used, so let's say these 2 fingers were on the outside, then I used my inside finger to push out, keeping those 2 outside, you know, so I kind of created the ripple, and then I did the opposite effect back and forth. And my theory was that that would somehow keep the walls kind of even, but I don't really think that's how it worked. Do you measure your pots and kind of look and see? Because like that's one thing I've also learned is that like our perceptions are different. And again, like I would say record or take pictures of everything, because what you think is small in your, you know, your head, and you go back and look at it later and you're like, no, that was pretty darn good. Or compared to something in the past, you've been thinking you're not making any progress. But one of the things that I also read was as far as getting more height was being aware of not making your base, your cylinder too wide. Like your base gets too wide, which then, you know, as people add more clay, they just get wider and wider, which prevents them from getting taller. But I haven't really thrown a lot of tall stuff, so don't, like, I'm not in any way trying to say that I know what to do. I lost my cutter. Oh, there it is. Yeah, this one here, like all of them were about just about a 4 1/4. Like, yeah, the one that I started with was 4 inches tall. This one is 4 1/2. And then 3 1/2 wide. There's a chart out there somewhere on the internet that's like, oh, this is the amount of clay that you need for this size thing, and this is the amount of clay that you need for that size thing. I don't know if that's true. I'll be honest. Yeah, see? Like, go try to find, like, there's a chart somewhere. I'll try to find it and share it on my thing, but like, I saw it somewhere where it's like 10 ounces of clay is a mug, this is that, I don't know. My goal is to get up to 5 pounds, because I read somewhere that 5 pounds will get you to, what was it? A 1 gallon pot takes 5 pounds, I think. So that's what I want to make, is a potted plant. But yeah, I think it would be helpful if more potters like shared how much clay they were starting with, and then the actual measurements afterwards, because it gives you a better idea of like what is possible with what you're working with. I kind of feel too that like there's not a huge difference to me, like, and then this may be my skills too, of like throwing with 2 pounds compared to 3 pounds. You know, so I don't even know like how much clay do you have to start with to get so much height? But maybe that just comes with experience. I don't know. I don't know, man. There's just a lot to think about. That's why I like it. There's like a lot to figure out. Man, I got so much here in this clay. It's crazy. Yeah, this is like better looking on the inside than I thought it would be. I'm not a fan of like the wavy pot. Like, one, because it's not uniform, you know, on the outside. But again, like that technique kind of worked as far as keeping the walls fairly even. So the base down here is a little, I think it's stuck though. I think it's stuck to the base, so I don't want to say I lost that much, but it's about 1/3 there. It may be short in the middle, but again, it may be ripped off. About 1/3 there. So the base may be a little thin compared to the walls, which the walls are about 1/4, but it did work. So now we're gonna wedge it all back up. Here, let me grab that. Yeah, I highly recommend that book. It's been really awesome, especially if you're a self-learner. It just, I don't know. It's teaching me what kind of how to look at pottery too. I don't have an art background, So one of the people I follow, that I don't know if you follow him, but PotteryDemon, he does a lot of streaming, and at the end of every stream, he throws 3 shapes, and they're all the same shape. He's making these trees, and afterwards he like puts the 3 trees he has, and then like breaks them down and talks about what he sees and how he sees them. And he has an art background, so it's like really cool. Like one of the things I never thought about, which this book actually talked about, is what shadows are created by your pot and how those shadows impact the way that it is, you know, is seen. You know, and also again how it impacts like light volume. So anyway, the thing I was going to share with you was, all right, so it kind of lists like 3 different ways that brings people into pottery. Yeah, he's kind of kooky, man, but it's interesting, man. It's I don't know, I haven't found anybody else that's doing anything like what he's doing. It's strictly art, and yeah, nothing's functional that he does. It makes a point not to do it functional. And the dude has like, he has like 900 of these things just scattered throughout his house, like his apartment. I mean, he's like surrounded by greenware. It's crazy. It's crazy. But anyways. Okay, so they say that this person says that there's like 3 ways that people get into it. One way people get into it is that the memories or associated childhood memories of messing around in the mud, just the fun of squishing it and playing Let's Pretend, and just the feel of the clay, like that sucks people in. Then other people get sucked in because they see the magic of throwing a pot and decide that they have to possess it, that they have to learn it, and that the lure is the fact that it's an activity that looks hard but doable. So like skiing or juggling or something. So it's something that, you know, you kind of want to conquer. And then the third one is some people just fall in love with the pots rather than the process. So they, you know, they love ceramics and they want to make ceramics because they love ceramics. And I would say I'm definitely like a combination of those first 2 people. Like one, I just like playing in the mud. I've always been I was a messy kid, and I just like getting messy now. It's just fun. And then 2, also I enjoy the challenge of it. Like, okay, you know, how do I do this? And how do I do that? And how do I make this shape? That's fun. Like the end effect isn't really, it's not huge for me. Yeah, I think you could be all 3 for sure. Absolutely. And again, too, I'm curious to see, once I have access to the kiln and I start firing my pieces, like, how is that going to impact how I view pottery and my pots? Because, like, I've been forced to, well, not forced, I guess I could have worked harder to go fire my pots, but, you know, I've made myself be in the process, or stuck in the process, for these past 10 months or however long it's been. But once I get to the point where, like, I just dropped a bunch of pots off to be bisque fired because I'm doing some raku firing next week, and that'll be my first firing. So when I get those pots back, I'll be interested if my attitude changes. Well, I will be doing this again. The next one, I'm going to do the next chapter, which is very similar, but it's all about rims and feet, which I haven't really played around a lot with. I don't think I've ever done any kind of special rim. So if you want to come to that, that'd be great. I don't know when I'll do it. Probably tomorrow. We'll see. If this clay's in better shape, or the right shape tomorrow. Oh, I will, for sure. Yeah, it felt really good. Actually, I haven't talked to a potter in person, and no person had seen my pots. And it was really cool when I met the lady that's, you know, doing it. She had nice things to say about my pots, and that just, I don't know, man, it felt good. It was validating, which I shouldn't have to feel that way, but you know, again, part of the reason why I do this is to kind of combat the imposter syndrome I tend to get when I'm a self-learner and learning something. And then again, too, it's, you know, you start doing stuff and the only people I have to compare myself to really are like pros that are on YouTube. Like everyone's been doing this for years and years and years. So I'm comparing myself to those people, which I try not to actually do comparison to other people. Try to only compare to myself. But when you look at, you know, everyone who's like a master and a pro, you're like, well, I'm not that good. But when I compare myself to where I started, yeah, I've progressed a lot. Yeah, it is good. Yeah, it feels good. Well, you should share yours too, man. I feel like more beginners like should share. Like it's okay to be a learner. It's okay not to be the best at something. It's okay to mess up, you know? Like that's part of the process. Do it. Absolutely, man. Like I said, like, I think it would be good. It'd be good for more people to see, one, this isn't just magic and it's not, there's a lot more to it than what it appears. And then also just for your own personal development. And, you know, there's so many pieces that never see the light of day for us, you know, like, oh, we have to chuck them because they get broken or they're messed up. And then there's like, unless you take a photograph, there's no record of that. Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I first started this, I didn't have any intention of like anybody seeing it. You know, that's kind of what started it. But now, you know, once people started seeing it and like people had nice things, I don't know, man, it made it even better. Like added a layer of awesomeness to it. It makes me wish I would have done that with everything I've learned in the past, because maybe I would have kept up with some of those activities. Yeah, I gotta go too. Hey, but thank you so much for stopping by, man. This was really fun. Yeah, enjoy your dinner. I'm heading out too. Bye.